For those of you who may not know, I've been skateboarding my whole life, and I'm actually quite good at it if I do say so myself. But after all these years of being a skateboarder, I've decided to finally become a man and make the jump into scootering, but the problem is I've got no idea where to start. I mean, sure, I suppose I could just go to Kmart and buy a sick-ass ride, but the thing that really inspired me to start skateboarding were video games, so I kinda feel like that's where I should start with scootering too. And sure, I did already play the legendary Crayola Scoot, but that's really more of a Splatoon clone meant for posers. So if I'm gonna have any hope at garnering respect from the hardcore scooter community, then I'm gonna have to play a game that dates all the way back to the early 2000s where this whole craze began. I mean, after all, it's video games from that same era that got me into skateboarding, so surely there must be one game out there that checks off all the boxes that I'm looking for. And sure enough, after doing a little bit of digging, I ended up finding Razor Freestyle Scooter for the Nintendo 64. Now, could I have gotten this game for an ass hair cheaper on the PS1 or even the Dreamcast? Well, sure. But to show just how serious I am with this whole scooter gimmick I'm trying out, I decided to spend about a week's worth of my son's lunch money not only on a Nintendo 64 copy, but I decided to go one step beyond to make sure that it was a sealed copy on top of that. Don't get me wrong, I got nothing against my son or anything like that, but first impressions really are everything, you know, and I really want to impress the local scoot scene where I live, so what better way to do that than to go big rather than going home? I mean, I did eventually go home after I bought this game, but, you know, I did go big first, so that's what matters. All I know is that the back of the box says that this game's not only an opportunity to control urban thrashers who cut through massive radical environments, but then it goes on to promise even more than that by offering, get this, 3 whole levels! Wait, what? Oh, well, apparently there's 6 bonus levels, so I guess 9's really not that bad, but why'd they have to word it like that, you know? Like, I know this game came from an era where 3D gaming was still relatively new and nobody really knew how much was enough content yet. But I mean, Super Mario 64 came out 4 years earlier than this, and that box didn't advertise one level with 14 bonus stages, you know? Oh well, at least the odd wording on the back's redeemed on the cover with this punk rock bad boy ripping all kinds of ass. I mean, just take one look at this guy and try telling me this badass isn't gonna steal your wife away from you. In fact, wait a minute. This actually is the guy that my ex-wife Chili cheated on me with. I mean, granted, he's a lot younger in the picture, but this is definitely him. Dang it. Well, you know what? That's fine, because as long as this game's half as good as it looks, I'm sure I'll have all the tools that I need to become just as big of a badass as this guy, if not an even bigger one. So let's not waste 2 more seconds, and dive right into Razor Freestyle Scoot. Alright, so the game opens up with a warning that says that the tricks portrayed in this game are very dangerous and difficult. But, as we all know, danger can be pretty damn fun. Seeing as how the folks at Crave Entertainment must have known that nobody'd be able to play this game and not want to go ride a scooter IRL, the game tries to at least avoid lawsuits by advising you to wear full pads. However, none of this seems to matter anyway, though, seeing as how none of the other characters in the game bother wearing any safety equipment themselves. Man, just look at Chad, for example. Not even a broken wrist is gonna stop this tough guy from thrashing on his scooter, and don't think for one second that he's gonna resort to wearing a wrist guard in his left hand, because that stuff's for wimps. Man, everyone knows that scooter riders are way too badass to wear protection, which is why Cameron Jr. looks a lot like that son of a bitch on the cover. Although, come to think of it, the guy on the cover is wearing a helmet and he still gets all the ladies, so I guess wearing protection's not entirely frowned upon in the scooter community. Speaking of the guy on the cover though, oddly, he's not even in the game. Apparently, real-life scooters are way too wild to be locked down into a video game, so the rest of the characters here all had to be made up, with only 2 of them being playable right off the bat. We already talked about Chad, who certainly looks like a Chad, but then we also have Amy.
Good eye.
This girl's got blue hair and some sick-ass parachute pants, cause back in the 90s, making sure you had enough real estate in your pants to store worms or whatever was kind of a thing. And just like the box promised, the game offers a whopping 3 whole levels, thus nullifying any chance you might have had at winning a false advertisement lawsuit against the developers decades later. Your Honor, if I may... The subjectively radical environments the urban thrashing takes place in, though, are the scooter park, Schools Out, and the clock tower, which are all just as self-explanatory as they are unimaginative. Just like you'd expect, the game tries copying the Tony Hawk franchise in an attempt to tap into the scooter market. I mean, it's not like the game can be considered a failure just because it didn't reach the same heights as its skateboarding counterpart. Because after all, copying Tony Hawk worked pretty well for BMX games. Sometimes everyone copying what works could lead to something even better, much like with pretty much every other video game genre there's ever been. So I mean, why can't other developers in action sports or whatever you want to call them give the Tony Hawk formula a shot too, you know?
Well, the problem with Razor Freestyle Scooter is that the gameplay only barely resembles the Tony Hawk franchise. I'm sure it looks like it does if you're just watching gameplay, but first of all, the game doesn't have any special moves whatsoever, and the controls are just pretty damn awful. If you played the Tony Hawk games, then you know the basic gist. You hold the jump button down to accelerate and let go whenever you're ready to jump. Then you press the grab or trick buttons to do actual tricks while you're in the air and rack up points. The thing with this game, though, is that you just kind of have to hope that the jumps happen whenever you want them to. You might think that me saying that just means that I suck at this game, but I watched a speedrun video because I thought I might be doing something wrong, and this guy just flat out confirmed my theory himself. And this guy's supposed to be the best in the world at this game, or at least I hope there isn't more than one person out there who got good at this anyway. Not only are the jumps unreliable though, but even when you're holding the jump button down to accelerate, your character moves so insanely slow. Once again, at first I thought I was doing something wrong, so I actually looked it up, but nope, you really can't go any faster than this.
Step on it!
This is the vehicle's top speed.
I mean, you started off relatively slow in the Tony Hawk games too, but at least those games let you increase your stats over time, and even at their slowest, they're still way faster than Razor Freestyle Scooter. It kind of feels like the game meant to have stat points, but then the developers either forgot or just didn't have time to put them in, so now the game's slow as hell. I mean, you can choose different colors for scooters and wheels, but they're all available right from the start, which gives you less to look forward to as the game goes on. And to make matters worse, you can't even friggin' choose purple.
This game's kind of a dick.
I might let it slide if it were just the speed and the jumps giving me issues, but to me, the main thing that prevents this game from being any fun is the grinding. In the Tony Hawk games, if you ollie anywhere in the vicinity of a rail holding the grind button, you'll automatically lock in and start racking up points. And yeah, that does kinda happen here, I guess, but if you let go of the grind button, you fall right off the rail or ledge. To make matters like 1,000 times worse, pressing the jump button while grinding, even if you're holding the grind button, will cause you to jump off the rail automatically. Might be a little more tolerable with a different button layout, but trying to maneuver your fingers between the jump and the grind button while you're on a rail is even more awkward than looking at my son after seeing the box art guy's face. I kind of find it a little bit weird that the game advertises 6 bonus levels, cause the game only lets you play 1 level in the beginning, so doesn't that make all 8 levels that aren't the first 1 bonus levels? Well, those other 2 normal levels are unlocked by pretty much completing any challenge in general. I'm not really sure, I kinda just unlocked them by playing. I honestly don't remember what I did, but I know it was easy, so who cares. But to unlock those mysterious bonus stages, you gotta complete any set of the 6 challenges in each stage. First, there's the clear and extreme scores, where you basically just collect a certain amount of points. Then there's a grind distance quota, where you don't have to do it all in one grind, or even in a combo for that matter. Then there's a high combo score, quota for extra time earned that you can get by doing tricks, and then there's a certain number of wheels scattered about for you to find and collect. However, unlike Banjo-Tooie, you gotta do it all in one go, which kinda sucks if you ask me. The challenges here are kinda sorta like the Tony Hawk games, except for the fact that they're lazy and just not really that fun. I mean, to complete the whole grind quota thing, you don't even have to land the tricks. It's almost like the developers didn't understand that the whole point to any of this extreme business is to actually land tricks, not just attempt them. Collecting the wheels could have been alright, but rather than hiding like 5 of them in clever locations like in the Tony Hawk games, there's literally dozens of them scattered throughout every stage in plain sight. The idea here is not to encourage exploration or be creative, it's just to memorize where all the wheels are by restarting the level multiple times. Like, yeah, it's not that hard to do, but it's also not fun either. And as for the other 4 challenges, they're all basically the same exact thing. See, scoring points will fill your bonus meter up, and if you can avoid falling before it reaches the top, then you'll earn an extra 10 seconds on your run. Like I said before, grinds are pretty much useless in this game, and since you can't hold or steer manuals, never-ending combos to rack up points is kinda out of the question here. So basically, if you want to beat any of the time challenges, then your best bet's to basically find a mini-ramp and just button mash back and forth. As long as you don't fall and reset the bonus meter, this usually gets the job done pretty quick. And I mean, I do like the idea of earning extra time by ripping ass, but earning dozens of bonus seconds always requires way more points than any of the other score-based challenges, so if you complete this goal, then you're automatically going to complete the other 3 as well. So really, each stage pretty much has 3 challenges, and given that there's only 3 normal stages to begin with, then that means that the amount of content in this game's pretty lackluster. What's the point in entering your name for a high score on a home console game? Oh well, I guess I'll just put something wacky to amuse myself, and you know what? I'm gonna get away with it too, since you can't prove that these aren't my real initials. But anyway, let's not forget about those 6 bonus stages. I mean, surely those will bring this game's value up a little bit, right? Well, like I said earlier, you gotta complete the same challenge in all 3 stages to unlock those. And then once you do, the game gives you this dire message. Crazed robot's taking your friends. Can you complete this challenge to save them? Wait a minute, this is supposed to be one of the bonus levels? Yeah, now I can see why they called these stages bonuses. Half of them are the exact same thing, and there's no way in hell any of these would have held up in court if they were advertised as full levels.
Damn you, fine print!
For reasons that are definitely not worth trying to figure out, this giant crazed robot kidnapped your friends, and his one demand for releasing them unharmed is to have you collect a bunch of wheels on a skate park floating miles in the sky with your scooter. Beating these levels never takes more than a few tries, but I must say that it's pretty hilarious whenever you fall off of one of these structures in the sky, or even just the building from the clock tower stage. This is pretty dark, but then again, this is a game that was made for badasses who ride scooters, so I knew what I was getting into. Although, I do have to question if this music's really what scooters listen to before they participate in a little urban thrashing. I mean, the songs in this game are extremely generic, and then they just kind of stop. But after doing about 1 minute's worth of extensive research, I found out that the disc-based versions of the game apparently had punk music from bands who wanted the free promotion. So I guess scooters are pretty punk on top of all the other adjectives you could use to describe them.
Hey, my name's Hard Rock Joe, and I hope you like punk music, because here's a punk song that I wrote for
Razor Freestyle Scooter.
Once you get the gist of things, it's actually pretty easy to unlock all the characters, but the real question at hand, though, is who the frig assembled this roster? Chad, Amy, Hector, Brittany, and Daryl all seem like chaps I wouldn't want to cross in a dark alley, but then the game throws Tiki Man at you out of left field, and it only gets weirder when, of all people, Tito friggin' Ortiz pops up.
I've got a few questions.
Why is this guy here? How was he captured in the first place? Why is he the only real-life person in the game? How much did they pay him? How is he not the final character? Why didn't they advertise him on the box? Does he even know he's in the game? Honestly, I have no idea. I could probably do a little bit of research and find out why, but honestly, sometimes it's best to just let our imaginations run wild and not try to kill the magic. All I know is that if former UFC fighters are known to ride scooters in their spare time, then you know it's gotta be pretty badass. Not only that, but I've met some pretty wacky and interesting people from skateboarding throughout the years, but looking at this gang here makes me realize that I chose the wrong crowd. I don't know how you're gonna top Tito Ortiz, but there's still one more character left to unlock, and I can't even begin to imagine who it might be.
Chippy!
Where's my Chippy? Where's my Chippy?
Alright, the game might not be very good, but Chippy's awesome. I don't care what anyone says. And, oh, hey, I just realized the game lets you use more than 3 characters for high scores. But, I mean, I don't feel like backspacing, so yeah, here we go. Cameron.
That's my real name. That's the only way we can get away with this.
After you finally unlock all the characters, though, the game gives you what could only be described as one of the most bizarre endings to anything ever. Thanks? Being big made me crazy?
How's my brain supposed to process those 9 seconds?
So what, that's supposed to justify kidnapping and endangering everyone's lives? Getting big and going crazy? Really?
Who's the real 7 billion ton robot monster here? Not I.
Oh well, I guess he's almost forgiven, because who cares if we almost died? Scooters are supposed to be TUFF tough, so why not go ahead and scoot with this robot or monster or whatever he is?
It's either a robot or a monster.
But anyway, that's Razor Freestyle Scooter for the Nintendo 64. It's certainly not the best game I ever played. In fact, it actually kind of sucks.
The controls and camera angles are frustrating, the music's bland, there's barely any content, and the game feels even slower than real life. It'd be one thing if this was supposed to be more like a simulator like EA Skate, even though those games are still unrealistic as all hell. But if this game were going for realism, then why are there any skateboarders for me to snake and collide into because I'm not looking where I'm going? Why don't I have an overprotective mom accompanying me? I'm telling you, none of this seems to add up.
You know what? I really do appreciate the fact that the game doesn't make you redo all the challenges over and over again with like 80 different characters like the Tony Hawk games used to. And who knows, maybe this game sucks on purpose as a means to toughen me up, since, after all, scootering's not for the weak, you know. Well, you know what? There's only one way to find out, and that's to go to the scoot park and see if the locals will actually accept me. Hey, what's up, guys? Okay, so I just beat Razor Freestyle Scooter for the Nintendo 64. I just beat Razor Freestyle Scooter for the Nintendo 64, and I was kind of wondering if I could join your little scooter club or whatever. Well, that didn't work. Apparently there's 2 more games on the Game Boy and Game Boy Advance I need to play first before they even let me scoot in their general vicinity. There's also a racing game on the PS1, but I was specifically told to stay away from this version. Apparently freestyle scooters don't take too kindly to the ones in the racing circuit. But anyway, I guess let's move on to Razor Freestyle Scooter for the Game Boy Color and see what that game's all about.
Alright, so the title screen's actually got another real-life human for a change, who kinda looks like the guy from Smash Mouth, who at this point is probably the only person left alive who hasn't boinked my ex-wife Chili. At least not yet anyway. Plus, this game's got a shop with upgrades, so as of right now, things are looking a little more promising than the 64 version. But sadly, any optimism that I might have had was immediately shattered when I realized there weren't any other characters to choose from. I know it didn't make a difference on the 64, but I mean, come on. One nameless character? Really? And this might just be me, but I hate when games only give you 2 difficulty options.
Like, I don't want to be a wuss and pick novice, because after all, these games are supposed to toughen me up so I could ride scooters in real life, but I also don't want to get frustrated to the point where I want to rip my own mustache off, you know? Oh well, let's see what the actual gameplay is all about, I guess.
Oh, it's Paperboy without newspapers. Cool? Okay, so let's start off with the trick mode, because the local scoop punk told me if he found out I was racing, he'd come over here and f me in the f you shit, and f***ing piece of shit, piece of and then f shit, but only after f shit, poopy. So I don't want to cross him, you know? Right now I'm just doing a little bit of a test run to get a feel for the controls, and meh, it controls about as good as it possibly could have, I guess. But the problem is that if you go too fast, you barely have enough time to react to anything unless you already know where everything is beforehand. I know I complained that the console version was too slow, but while I do appreciate the extra speed, it's kind of a hassle when the camera's zoomed in this far. But anyway, that's the end of my first run. I kinda think I'm getting the hang of things. Wait, what the hell? You lost? Have a burger? I can't tell if the game's insulting me or genuinely trying to cheer me up, but since I'm sure the burger that came in the original box is probably long gone by now, I'm honestly beyond frustrated that I lost. But I mean, if a burger's what you get for losing, then just imagine how awesome the grand prize must be. So you know what, I'm gonna crank the difficulty up and hit this game full blast. But the only real difference I'm noticing in the difficulty is the amount of time you have. And since doing tricks off of jumps doesn't add any extra points or anything like that, there's not really any point in using them at all. In fact, all you gotta do is just spam a bunch of flat ground tricks in the very beginning till you meet your quota, and then you just kinda move forward until the end. Even if you're brain dead, you're pretty much always gonna have at least 4 minutes left at the very end, so this is way too easy if you ask me, even on expert. In between the stages, the game gives you a chance to buy those upgrades I glorified a little bit earlier from the shop. New shoes increase your acceleration, and I've gotta say that the most expensive pair looks like absolute hell. That's coming from someone who used to wear parachute pants with yellow shirts. The knee pads, I think, help you get up a little bit faster when you crash into things, but to be honest, I'm not even sure. I can't imagine what else they'd do. These things that I didn't think had an English word to describe them, but are apparently called forks improve your handling, and then there's finally the wheels that increase your speed. Everything in the shop's pretty expensive and requires a decent bit of grinding to be able to afford, but like I said earlier, the trick mode's a complete breeze, so none of this really matters anyway. Oh yes, we're finally done! Now let's see what the grand prize is! Well done, you have completed the trick section successfully. Are you serious? A digital trophy? What a ripoff! I wanted a damn steamed ham!
Maybe if I beat one of the 2 racing modes, I'll get the true grand prize. I know that the Scoop Punks told me not to, but then again, maybe this is a test to see if I'm a true rebel who doesn't do what he's told. I'm not getting the racing game on the PS1, though. I'm way too broke after buying the sealed 64 copy of Blockbuster.
Well, I will say that while the championship mode is an ass hair more difficult, it's still nothing crazy, but the upgrades actually do help a little bit here. The jumps don't give you any extra speed or anything like that, so there's really no reason to use them. However, having the highest score at the end of the race does give you an extra point, so if you got the time, it's definitely worth spamming a few flat ground tricks here and there. I mean, it's not like doing the same one over and over again gives you less points or anything like that. Getting first place isn't too difficult, but since the CPU characters don't finish the same in every race, it's definitely a lot easier to win the overall circuit than in a game like Mario Kart, where the CPU characters always finish in the same order every time. Doesn't take too long to finish this mode, but once you do, all you're gonna get's another digital trophy with a short message that disappears even faster than you could say "Ani neče da te kladovec." And then you just kinda stare at the menu for a little bit and realize how much time you wasted that you could have spent with your loved ones instead.
My entire family abandoned me and all I have to show for it's a digital trophy and Razor Freestyle Scooter for the Game Boy Color that I only got to look at for 1 second?
Oh well, things could always be worse. I mean, you could be the type of person who has the balls to ask someone to play this with you in multiplayer. Honestly, I really want to know how many people actually use this feature for this game. I mean, it can't be more than like 10, right? And like, sure, the Game Boy Color version of this game sucks by modern standards. You could more or less get the entire experience in like an hour, and it'd only take about 2 hours to 100% it, just in case anyone feels like telling howlongtobeat.com. But I mean, it's a portable version of a game that was meant to be a cash grab on home consoles, so I mean, what could you really expect from it? And this came out back when handheld versions of console games were watered down as all hell, so all things considered, I think this game was about as good as it could have possibly been. Well, you know, for a cash grab about scooters anyway. If I'm being honest, I kinda like the main song from this game that's been playing for the past few minutes. I mean, it's no Smile Bomb, sure, but it's still pretty good. If you're not trying to be initiated into a local scooter gang, though, then there's really no good reason why anyone in the world should play this game. Especially not decades later.
After everything I've been through, I already feel like I'm tough enough as it is, but just to be sure, let's see how the same exact game fares on the Super Nintendo 2, aka the Game Boy Advance. Son of a bitch, really?
Okay, so for a scooter series that ripped Tony Hawk's gameplay off on the 64, you'd think that it'd be common sense to rip the same franchise off again if you're gonna make a game for the Game Boy Advance. But then again, there were Tony Hawk games on the Game Boy Color, and they decided to copy Paperboy of all things, so what the frig do I know? Sadly though, much like the Game Boy Color version, there's only one generic character here, and there's only 3 levels with a 4th that could be unlocked. As for the gameplay itself, it controls in 3D, kind of. Whatever this is, it was pretty impressive for the Game Boy Advance back when it first came out, even though Tony Hawk 2 already came out a few months prior and did the exact same thing. But as impressive as this may be for an early Game Boy Advance game though, the controls are pretty awkward and the view makes it hard to aim your grinds, and the stages, well, they just kinda suck. It's basically just a bunch of random obstacles thrown together in like 5 minutes with no real flow to them. The goal is pretty much the exact same thing as the console versions. You have 6 challenges to complete in each stage, and one of them's automatically gonna fill the other 3 challenges in, so really each stage has 3 challenges. Grinding's just as useless as the console versions, and the balance meter apparently means nothing here if you're not going fast enough. But also like the console version, the game only lets you go so fast, so do you want me grinding or not, game? Oh well, it doesn't really matter though, because also like the original, all you gotta do is find a half pipe and then just button mash back and forth until you get all the time extensions, and then boom. 4 out of 6 challenges complete. Normally you could fall if you get too greedy with tricks in the air, but sometimes I'm literally trying to eat poop with button mashing, and I always seem to ride away as long as I'm doing it off of a quarter pipe, even if I land 90 degrees or something.
Check it out, I'm trying my ass off and I can't crash this thing.
Meeting your grind quota requires just as little effort as the console versions, although I do think it's interesting that the game refers to the word grind in the past tense as ground. I mean, it's not wrong, but I've never heard anyone say it. It's probably some kind of a scooter code that I need to write down. As far as collecting all the wheels is concerned though, these camera angles make this way too goddamn frustrating. Honestly, I could probably collect them all if I had nothing better to do and just took the time to memorize the locations and master the controls. But I mean, the sun's about to go down, so if I don't hurry, that punk scooter guy is gonna leave the park and probably go somewhere badass like a strip and/or fight club. I mean, I've already lost my family to these games, so at this point, becoming a bona fide scooter rider is my last hope. So that's right, I'm gonna channel my inner irate gamer and cheat with passwords from the internet. Wait, that's it? Why'd I need passwords just to do contests in this game? Shouldn't that have just been one of the modes from the start? Whatever, let's just rip some ass so I can get back to the park. Although if I'm gonna have any chance at impressing the local scooter gang, then I'd better make sure to win this one. So maybe, just maybe, spamming tricks just might possibly get me. It completely obliterates the computer. Well, I guess winning all these contests is gonna be easy, albeit time consuming, seeing as how the runs are 2 whole minutes for some reason. And god damn it, would it really have killed the developers to let me finish a trick before ending the run? Wait a minute, the 64 characters are all here after all. Why can't I play as any of them? I mean, they had to design one character, so why couldn't it have at least been someone we already know and love? You know, somebody like Chippy, for example. I'll tell you, that rascal's got a good head on his shoulders. But kinda like how they left Tito's last name out to avoid having to cut the guy another check while still getting away with using his likeness to a small extent. After plowing through all the contests though, the game abruptly ends without even so much as a digital trophy, let alone a hamburger. Thank God I didn't collect all those wheels.
But anyway, that about does it for the Game Boy Advance version of the game, and in my opinion, this one's clearly the most phoned into the 3, but who cares about all that malarkey? Let's go join a real-life scooter gang! Yay! So you really want to join our scooter cult, huh? Oh golly gee, more than anything in the world. Sorry, Coop, but that's just not gonna happen, no matter how many classic scooter games you've played. But I'll tell you what, once you've ground around that there half ramp over there, maybe we'll reconsider. Oh, so you want me to grind it, huh? That's right. all you gotta do. All right, here goes nothing. Whoa!